Radio in motion. Program loading in 3, 2, 1. Program activated.
Attention everyone, the unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake.
Okay, first things first, what is your name?
This is Big Sonny playing the best of the 90s and beyond.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Radio in motion.
Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
All right, here we go.
Radio in motion.
All right, thanks for joining me tonight. Welcome back. We've got another episode of The Ugly Truth, and the ugly truth is movies back then were just better. There's no way around it now. Now, I will concede that maybe once a year now you might get a winner, especially when Hollywood only knows how to do remakes, reboots, reloaded, rehashing. Fresh ideas are rare, but when they do break through, and I'll say this before the movie we're going to talk about, which is Twister. And again, you might think, that's old news. What are you reviewing? Well, this is a retro review to let you really understand what you're missing out on. And movies these days, especially from Hollywood, they're trying to go for that perfect by-the-numbers algorithm to make sure that it ticks all the boxes, meets all the demands, make sure it ticks all the boxes for the Academy to consider awards, and gets the right audience, which doesn't always mean butts and seats these days, because they're always thinking ahead to streaming and their return on the investment and art and entertainment and acting and style and story seem to go out the window. And every now and again, like recently, I think it's fantastic when you see independent movies and filmmakers, maybe someone who's just on YouTube or someone struggling to get through. That's fantastic when you see those break through, because it lets you know that there is still a chance that it's not always the big Hollywood machine. A couple movies out now which are breaking the box office, Backrooms and Obsession, destroying the mainstream movies like the Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu. What an amazing name. What a name that just instills passion and excitement. And He-Man. Hey, by the way, again, as a Gen X kid, He-Man was as synonymous with your normal toy lineup as G.I. Joe or any other Star Wars toys. Obviously, the He-Man action figures didn't quite match Star Wars figures and G.I. Joe, although, again, not quite to scale with each other. They could still mingle and have battles together. He-Man was complicated because essentially, if you don't know this, and if you do, you're going to laugh, every He-Man action figure was essentially molded off the same exact body, which was a ginormous bodybuilder. They're all Arnold Schwarzenegger body, with different colors and heads and growls and jaws and extending heads and helmets, but there was all the same exact giant swollen body, and they were huge. You could fit, 3 G.I. Joe men inside a He-Man. So it was difficult mingling them in. But again, Hollywood took a product with a built-in audience and messed that up. That movie tanked. No matter what anyone tells you, The Mandalorian and Grogu has tanked. And again, no, it's not just about money. I'm not saying it's all about that. But unfortunately, unfortunately that does reflect on the audience that either showed up or didn't show up. And unfortunately, the box office figures do reflect that. And again, when independent movies can come through. And again, before I get into a retro review of Twister, something like Toy Story may come along, and right now it's Toy Story 5. Did we need Toy Story 5? No. But it is something that I think was safe enough. And look, they're twisting the story to meet their modern audience and who they're targeting. That movie whether it's good or not, that will probably make $1 billion. So I'm not saying Hollywood can't get it right, but they just don't really care about cinema anymore. And that's what's sad, because I think if you focus on that, like anything in life, art, music, talent, when you focus on that part, what becomes a success or not happens naturally of its own volition. It either happens or it doesn't. And if it does, well, then it's fully deserved, because that wasn't the aim. I really don't think any, especially artists, struggling artists who usually have a lot of issues and problems, and they end up, alcoholics and drugs, and because they're just so intensely into their passion and art, they end up becoming successful. I don't think their aim was to be successful. I maybe here and there are, but I can't imagine that. And I feel the same about filmmakers. I don't think they sat down and go, oh, money, money, money in the bank, baby. They do it because they love it. So this is one of the movies that I think really did that. And I think it gets overlooked because it's the typical 90s blockbuster. It's Twister. But you know what? There are some amazing human moments in Twister. There is great dialogue. That's why I'm going to do a bit of a retro review. So Twister, look, if you haven't seen it, I can't help you. If it's spoilers by now, something's wrong. Having said that, definitely check it out. And if you have already watched it, give it a rewatch. You will have a great time. And yes, again, that was also rebooted by Hollywood, and they came up with the best name ever. They added an S. So it's Twisters. Oh my goodness. It's not just a Twister, it's Twisters. They're everywhere. Hate to break it to you, there are already multiple Twisters in the first movie too. And again, from what I heard, it wasn't bad, but not needed. Already done. Same, but now with modern jokes, modern haha jokes, and modern audience tick boxes. But Twister from 96, which is a lot of our music tonight, is inspired by that year. It's a blockbuster that still holds up because it knew what it could do and what it couldn't do, especially with special effects, and I'll talk about that in a minute. It isn't purely an action movie. That's boring, because I think, again, they find now they're trying to recapture that Marvel algorithm. It has to be superhero, or there has to be a superhero element, it has to be action, or if it's a rom-com, it has to be romantic comedy. A movie can be many things all at once, just based on the characters and the story. Or how about you put your characters in an interesting storyline, and what happens as they interact with each other becomes a story. So yeah, Twister has all of these. Yes, the two leads, there is, a romantic connection and a real connection, an on-screen chemistry. Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jamie Gertz, Carrie Elwes. Carrie Elwes, great, always playing a conniving bad guy. He's not just Wesley from Princess Bride. He's synonymous with he can do some great villain parts, and he does that here. So that cast alone was fantastic. Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest his soul, actually fantastic in this. And again, this movie blends all the genres: action movie, disaster movie, romantic comedy, you could say, but I don't want to say that. That takes away from it. Let's just say there are funny parts naturally because of good writing and good acting, and there is a romance because that's the story, that's the plot line that brings them all together. That is happening while the tornadoes are happening. Very believable, as in real life. And, you could say lament, love, loss, finding new love. Again, it wasn't written like that with the rom-com, formula, but it's all in there blended perfectly. I think, again, modern blockbusters often feel like they're chasing constant simulation. There's no room to breathe. You have to have a moment to breathe, a moment to figure out where you are. And no, it's not about dumbing down. It's not about giving the audience all this exposition. Hey, everyone, are you caught up now? It's about having just a natural flow to a movie. And again, the story of Twister, again, if you don't know, they're all storm chasers. Helen Hunt's character personally had a huge twister and an experience that was disastrous when she was a kid. And as tornadoes actually do in real life, they're very strange. They may target one house, rip it out of the ground for real, and the house across the street is not touched. And, this kind of thing happened to her, and it was devastating. And of course, sometimes as you do, when something like that happens, you're actually driven by it to understand more about it. And Bill Paxton, they used to work together and had a relationship, and they came up with a fantastic device to help warn people ahead of time about tornadoes, which again, in the 90s or now, I'm sure the technology has advanced, but in some ways, hurricanes and tornadoes, sometimes there isn't enough warning, and smaller towns, may be affected by it. And the great thing is, with good movies like this, it is based on some reality. There really are storm chasers. That's what they're called. There really are people who devote their science. They're not just all wackos with a camera. And if they are, good on them, because the more they learn about weather, the more we can benefit from understanding it. So there really are storm chasers, and some of them are, of course, they're scientists or engineers or whatever, and they go out and they get data and they put it in their computers, and they again try to use this to help us understand and have better warnings. So in the movie, they created a system. It's called Dorothy. It's a cylinder that opens up, and all these little micro little cubes are meant to be taken by the tornado funnel as it swirls in the wind, and they fly around, and they're getting readings of the tornado inside the tornado. And it was groundbreaking, and that's based on a real thing, and you can look it up. This was something that was invented. It was based on the same concept that it would take the little tiny little probes and swirl them up through the tornado, except it was actually called Toto. Again, Kansas, Toto, tornado, Dorothy. You get it. You're there. We're there. So that's the plot, and Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt find themselves back together again. They're sort of estranged. He has gone off to create a new life. We get all this exposition at the start without, again, I feel like movies these days, they stop and practically tell you the whole plot just to make sure everyone's caught up. And in a movie like Twister, it just opens up. Bill Paxton is driving with his current girlfriend, Jamie Gertz, and essentially he's going back to serve Helen Hunt with divorce papers. And he's been putting it off because it's not an easy thing. And they meet up, and they're Helen Hunt and her team, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and the rest of the team, they're out there about to head off and chase some storms because there's some big weather coming in. It's a storm season, and they're busy. And, there you go. You just get what you need, and they realize the audience is intelligent, and they get caught up pretty quick. You get it. I see what's happening here. And you can even make assumptions, and that's what's fun. Oh, this will be interesting. He's bringing his current girlfriend back to the old squeeze. They work together, and that's fun. You don't need to spell it out. So I love that. And the thing that I think is great is, again, the story is grounded despite the whole larger-than-life twisters, cows flying and trucks flying through the air. But I like the fact that it's grounded based on that real technology and real science, and they incorporate that into the movie. They work together on Dorothy, but his vision wasn't realized. And then he's surprised when he finds out that Helen Hunt shows him, well, look, guess what? Dorothy's actually real. We got the funding, and we made it happen. And again, he's moved on. It's difficult for him, but he's seeing the thing that he invented with her, but she credits him throughout the movie that it was his idea, has finally come to life. And I want to say this. So this is another important thing. The characters behave like adults. I think movies these days are written by children for adult children or just children. I don't think anyone really understands dialogue and speaking naturally and giving, again, the actors room to breathe and have a moment. and to not just act like idiots or try to be a caricature of what they think the role is for men or women. In this movie, again, it feels natural. They make adult decisions. They make smart decisions. The conflicts arise from genuine emotional complexity, not forced, TikTok complexity or, whatever the current Housewives show is, where everyone has to just get in a fight. They get drunk and get in a fight. Again, that's going off on a tangent. But the decisions generally make sense based on the characters' goals and personalities. And again, the script trusts viewers to understand emotions without excessive explanation, and I love that. And yeah, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt have a great rapport and chemistry in this movie. And here's the adult part. So Jamie Gertz being the current girlfriend, again, that could have been treated in all kinds of ways. Helen Hunt and her could have gotten a cat fight, or it could have been, my man and all this. It was treated like adults would treat it. A difficult situation, trying to support, she's trying to support her man, but he's got to get some things done in the past. Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt are back together. They're feeling mixed emotions that are being brought up. These are real things. The relationship drama isn't driven by, childish arguments, like I say, or manufactured conflict. It seems realistic. And that already makes the movie great because, of course, it's Twister. Of course, there's huge action parts, but they let you breathe, like I say, in between. There's good pacing to lead up to it. If the movie is constant action, which I feel like that happens again a lot these days, the camera never stops. Hey, I love a good shaky cam here and there, but it's as if they just don't give you a minute to breathe. And you're like, well, that's what I want. I just want to go to the movies and have a roller coaster ride. Well, that's fine. Go to an amusement park. Or if that's the only thing that a movie is just for that, it's not really a movie at that point. It is a Disney ride. That's probably why Disney movies seem like that. But yeah, Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, they're true co-leads. Let me always say that too. Neither character exists to overshadow the other. And again, I've said this before, and if you can't see the trend, then maybe you're just you don't have a good frame of reference for when movies were real. Especially when men and women are on screen, they can complement each other. It doesn't have to be girl boss, or it doesn't have to be the guy. It has to be a jerk. You don't have to steal the scene at the expense of the other. You don't have to say, I'm a woman, I can get it done. Men don't say that either. They just get it done. They don't go, I'm a man, I'm going to get it done. All that gets really old. And again, I've talked about that before at nauseum. It's this template that has to be the strong female character at the expense of the male character. And then you think, oh, you're just a chauvinistic male. You don't support that. As I've always said, when any part is written, whether it's a man or woman, if it's written well and acted well, people will get behind it. That's how you get Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, and Alien and Aliens. The entire audience, men and women, doesn't matter. That is an awesome character. Sarah Connor from Terminator. These are strong female leads, and we love them, and they've always made money, and the audience shows up. So nothing to do with that. And this is another great one where they really complement each other, and the characters Joe and Bill. They continue, they contribute equally to the story, which is great. And the chemistry, again, feels authentic between them. And it treats them, again, as partners, not competitors. And that's the thing. She realizes this is his invention. She helped bring it to fruition. He joins the journey for the day while they're out. And, he gives them, I'll give you one day. She entices them. Don't you miss this? And don't you miss chasing storms? Don't you want to use your invention? And again, that's how the plot moves along. And like I say, throughout the movie, even though, she and her team have made the machine, again, come to life, she keeps letting him know. She pays respect, saying, well, it was your invention. It's a good invention. And especially when something goes wrong, it doesn't quite work right. He's wondering on how to fix it, and she doesn't take over and go, well, you left me, bud, you're gone. It's mine now. She goes, well, what do you think? Do you have any ideas? And again, that mutual respect is a simple thing that I feel like movies miss these days, especially when it comes to the interaction between men and women. It always has to be a battle. It's not always a battle. And the romance, again, it develops naturally like it would in real life, you know. Bill Paxton has moved on. He's engaged to the new character, Jamie Gertz, playing Melissa. And, you know, they're sort of reuniting amongst all the adventure that's ensuing. So you can't help, again, in real life probably, but naturally fall back into how you used to be. Remember, you're remembering things about each other, and enough time has passed that maybe you've forgiven and you've changed. Again, it's sad, but that's the truth. You moved on to the new person, but maybe it's not what you thought. And like I say, their sort of rekindling of their romance happens naturally, written like an adult script that you can relate to. And, you know, as the chase progresses, as they're chasing the storms, they just simply fall back into the rhythm that once obviously worked for them. And the audience sees it happening long before the characters fully acknowledge it themselves. That's always fun, too. Again, it's another one about treating the audience intelligently. And I've seen that movie many times, and I always enjoy the little scenes, the little looks. Again, it comes down to the actor and actress. Both of them are fantastic at the little, again, it's maybe the director, yes, but maybe it's not always the director. Maybe it's something that just happened naturally on the set. And, you know, that's how magic happens in a movie. Some of it's planned, some of it's not. That's fantastic. But yeah, it's the little moments, the little smiles, or even the little digs at each other, which actually you can tell, just like, you know, a girl and a boy who are actually, you know, bonking each other on the head when they're kids. It's actually because they like each other, and it's a kind of flirting, and it's fun that the audience can see it coming and they can't wait for it, and that's great. That's what I think is, again, missing. Give us a moment to have anticipation, and you know, especially again, like I said, moments to breathe in between the adventure, and the character Melissa is surprisingly well written too. Again, she's the current fiance, which you think, oh well, that could get complicated, and it does. But again, many films I think would turn her into the antagonist, but instead, she's actually intelligent and kind and emotionally mature. And at some point, she's trying to get involved. She's freaking out because she's like, "What is this storm chasing crap?" I think she's a psychologist, and this is not normal for her. Like I say, seeing tornadoes have cows flying around and trucks and debris, and she's freaking out. But she's trying to support her man, and she does her best. But even she recognizes what's happening as the movie goes on. That is you know, it creates obviously some tense moments, and I think that's great. You know, and again, sorry, spoiler. You know, there's a point in the movie towards the end, right before the big final adventure and tornado, where she's had some self-realizations, and maybe he hasn't. He's not there yet. He's too caught up in all of it. But she's watching it. She's watching them from afar. She's listening to them over the CB radio and stuff, which is often pretty cool. They're closer to the tornado, getting ready to launch Dorothy, and Melissa, Jamie Gertz's character, is hanging back with the rest of the crew, and a lot of it she's hearing over the two-way radio, the CB radio. They're back and forth, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, and she sees it as well. Maybe he's changing, and you know, she makes the decision to step away because she feels like, you know, it's something, well, again, that's something a real adult would do, right? Amazing. Like I say, today they would get in a cat fight or something, but she makes the decision to back away. And she even says a line. She goes, "Look, I think we both knew it wasn't going to work," when she's telling Bill that she's going to go ahead and step away. And then she says, "You know, I'm not really that upset about it. You know, I wonder what that means." And again, that's a very realistic, natural way that could happen. That the two people who are together only need something slight to throw a spanner into the works. And this happened to be him meeting up again with Helen Hunt, ironically to serve her with divorce papers. But it's recognized in both of them, and especially the new woman, that, you know what, maybe this was the out I needed. And maybe this was the right step. And again, bows out like an adult. I think that's a wonderful moment. It's really a wonderful, tender moment amongst all the crazy action in the movie. And the supporting cast, again, I mentioned Philip Seymour Hoffman. You can imagine he's always been the same, and he steals the scenes he's in. Actually, every character also has enough time to take the scene when it's time and bounce off each other. But frankly, I always remember him, and it's funny if you watch it again, he really annoys the crap out of Jamie Gertz's character, Melissa, the entire movie. And that enough is hilarious, because if you know Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think he was like that in real life. He was obviously a great presence on the screen, but he plays a real prick. What can I say? He's good at playing a prick. I'm not saying he's a prick in this one. He's actually great, but he's in your face. And he was in her face to the point where she was even making faces, which I feel like they were the real character. I honestly feel like he actually annoyed the crap out of her. But again, it looked great on screen. And again, the whole supporting cast, they feel like a real team. Okay? I feel like, especially with movies today or the remake, it's just like, hey, we've been buddies forever. Hey, buddy, we're a great team. Just because you say it, you say the dialogue, oh, aren't we a great team? Hey, great team guy. It doesn't work. You have to see it. You have to see it in the quiet moments. They all have the personality of their own. It's the small interactions. You can see that there's long-standing friendships. One of my favorite scenes is a scene where they visit Helen Hunt's aunt, Aunt Meg, and she makes them all food. She makes them a huge dinner, and it's perfect. The house, her aunt is a bit of an artist. She actually makes these wind machines, which is, of course, appropriate. And they're all outside, and she's making them this big meal. They all know her. They've all seen her many times. She's cooked for all of them before. And they're all just sitting down and eating dinner. And it's like I say, it's a realistic view of what a family dinner looks like, or Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's a big mess. There's kinds of action going on. People are getting cleaned up, and I don't know what to say. And amongst that, the dialogue is just very natural. They're reminiscing about a few stories about Bill's past, and all I can say is you genuinely feel connected. That's one of the best scenes. One of the best scenes is when they stop, go to Aunt Meg's house, and just have a good feed, because they've already had a long day with a couple of twisters, really, huge action scenes. Great soundtrack, by the way, that drives it. And they're just hanging out, having a meal. And it makes it seem like it's a real team, so that when they head out for the next one, you're now so invested in everyone. And the movie did that naturally, from great writing, great pacing, great plot, movement, and great characters development. Simple as that. You're on board. You're on board with all of them. You want to see what each and every one of them is going to say next. Carrie Elwes, like I say, fantastic. He delivers a classic blockbuster villain. He does great. Obviously, he has naturally English accent. He puts on this Southern sort of villain thing. Well, maybe it was your design, but it was unrealized. So he and his team, very corporate sponsored, big money. He also has a Dorothy. Sorry, spoilers. It's too late. So he also has his version. And Bill Paxton's pretty pissed about that, because he's like, you stole my idea. And he's like, oh, I stole your idea. Unrealized. He's doing his best, whatever Southern accent as an Englishman would do. But no, it's pretty good. He puts on a great performance. He sort of represents the commercialization of science rather than the passion, and his rivalry with Bill. Again, it didn't take a long explanation. In one scene, you already knew they were rivals, and you knew they had a falling out. You could see it the minute Bill has a go at him when he sees that he has a device too. He's doing a press conference outside with some cameras. Doesn't take much. Again, you're caught up. The audience is not stupid. Don't treat the audience like they're stupid. Drives me crazy. And again, So I'll talk about this, the practical effects versus CGI. In 96, we knew what we were capable of. You know, there was already Jurassic Park. There was Terminator 2 with the morphing, and it was developing. But they also knew how to not go too far, which I still feel like they do to this day. Not everything has to be CGI. You don't need the chair and the spoon and the walls and everything. Everything is just, they just put the actor in the middle of a freaking green screen. Well, we'll put it in post. But isn't he supposed to be under a waterfall or reacting? No, we'll put it in post. Just sit in the chair and act terrified. You know, that doesn't work. That's all the Marvel movies. We'll create the universe around you. Just act terrified, happy and terrified. They knew what they could do. And in 96, they could easily, and by the way, the CGI holds up very well because they knew their limits. In 1996, could they do excellent debris swirling and cloud swirling and tornado and just blurring of motion and you know, debris, which is just little squares and sticks and things, and mix all that up? Could they do that well? 100%. And they ran with it. You think, oh, well, they would be good at that today. Well, even back then, that was the kind of thing that was capable of being done with those effects. And the rest, again, is primarily, the CGI is primarily used for the elements, again, with the tornadoes. And everything else, practical effects. And practical effects always hold up well. There's a scene where a giant semi-truck, 18-wheeler, is being dragged along by a tornado on the road. And yes, that was real. I'm sure it was, you know, hollow inside and very light and on strings and all that behind the scenes stuff. But it was not CGI because, again, they probably, even if they did a test, they're like, well, that looks ridiculous. So they didn't go with it. Practical effects hold up well and help you immerse, and probably helps the actors, I'm going to be honest, immerse into it even better. Okay, everyone, action. The giant truck is going to come down and it's going to almost smash you. Well, how will we know? Because we have a giant truck that's going to come down and almost smash you. Okay, I'll prepare for that. We're going to have a giant combine fall from the sky and land, and trucks and cars. Oh, by the way, there's a whole house that's going to fall and you're going to drive through it. How are you going to do that? We're going to drop a big house and you're going to drive through it. Again, I know money's different these days. Things cost more money. It's difficult. But in the 90s, that was doable. The effects look awesome to this day. 100%. They look fantastic. Practical effects, you know, mixed with what they could do at the time that would look real. And again, nothing feels wasted in this movie. Every scene, I think, is perfect. Every scene either develops a character, advances the plot, or builds tension. What can I say? You know, exposition is delivered naturally through conversation and action, not because they stopped and, like I said, say, all right, now, so you used to be this and you were friends with this guy, but he built this thing and you built that and you're mad now. All right, everyone caught up? That is literally what movies do today, and it drives me nuts. And the soundtrack is like a masterclass in scene flow. There's a big standout scene. I love it, and you know, I don't think I've seen this in any other movie, and if I have, it's rare, and it doesn't happen these days. So you hear the orchestra score is building. They leave Aunt Meg's house. They're going to go and chase another storm. And they get in their cars and they're going, and you see them zooming on the freeway. And again, this is the soundtrack music. It's strings and, you know, dun dun dun. It's building and it's, you know, very orchestra. And then it starts to build with a theme that you think sounds familiar. It's going dun 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 dun. So that's actually a song that was out at the time, and it was also aligned with the movie. And that's the song I played earlier. It was Van Halen, "Humans Being." It's got a very obvious, catchy tune. So as they're driving, there's a scene where it cuts to a turn and the cars are turning. It immediately blends seamlessly into the actual song that blends into the orchestra. Now it's guitar, dun, 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 and then it turns into the Van Halen rock song. And you get like a wide shot. I'm sorry, I guess I'm easily pleased. Or something. Or maybe it's because movies are such crap now. I'm easily pleased with that stuff. It's just one of the coolest transitions, and how you mix in a scene, and again, filmmaking, and if you are going to mix it with an actual song that has to align with the movie, it's something you don't like consciously notice, but it just creates momentum, and it's excitement, especially when you know it's coming. I think it's great. So again, that's all I'm going to say for my sort of retro review for Twister. And if you haven't seen it, I hope I've interested you in seeing it. And if you have seen it, watch it again. I think you're just going to be pleasantly surprised at how it holds up. It's one of the best examples of 90s blockbusters because that formula, it respected both the audience and its characters. You know, it delivers spectacle without sacrificing the story. And it creates strong characters without sort of turning them into stereotypes. And I think it does. It balances romance, science, comedy, action, nearly 30 years later, I think it still feels like a movie made by adults for adults, or adult situations. I don't mean like doing taxes or paying bills. That sounds like adult situations. But yeah, it trusts the audience to follow along without having every emotion, motivation, and plot spelled out before them. So again, yeah, Twister, 1996. Definitely check it out to see how a blockbuster movie can be made and still have heart and still hold up. And it makes me feel quite sad that we've lost Bill Paxton and Philip Seymour Hoffman, both in that movie. But a great watch, and I hope I've excited you again about movie making. And again, I know I'm down on Hollywood lately, but there's always hope. And if it's through independent filmmaking, I say bring it on. I think that's what we need at this point. All right, more great songs coming up tonight on our 96 All Mixed Up. Again, some songs inspired by the movie or just from 1996, which any year in the 90s was great for music. All right, more great tunes coming up next. I have a word from our awesome sponsors.